Hey guys, what's up? Charles Float here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through the November 2021 spam Google update, the date range that it's rolled out across that we've seen so far, what it's affected, as well as my overall thoughts around this update and any potential updates that we've got to come for the rest of the year. Now, this video is very early on. However, Google did make an announcement that it was both starting and that it was completing, so we don't have any expectation that there will be any further movement. However, the final movement was literally but days ago, so this analysis is very early, it's very to the point, and it's not 110%. So do take whatever you are taking in this video with a grain of salt. Now, those Google announcements that they did make do not quite match up to reality, so without any further ado, let's jump into things. So let's start off by taking a look at the Google announcement itself. Now, Google, if you don't know, and you should 100% know this, has the search liaison account that is run by Danny Sullivan. However much that guy's been getting a lot of hate this year. It's still quite active. They do try, apparently, to drop every single update that they actually release now on the Twitter feed. However, obviously, if you've been in SEO for any amount of time, you'll know that that is not 110% the case. However, with this update, they do seem to have at least tried somewhat to release the update and the details around it. However, these date lines that they have put do not match reality in the SERPs really at all. So the date ranges themselves, Google announced the rollout on November 4th via Twitter, of course, via that search liaison account. Then on the November the 12th, announced that the update was complete. We did see movement on November the 4th. However, it wasn't nearly as substantial as you would have thought for an actual spam update to occur. However, most of the actual movement was seen on November the 12th for the United States, and then November the 13th, which for the UK, Canada, and Australia, and then internationally, it seems we've seen movement on the November the 14th. Now, I do say that those are three different dates for three different kind of Google environments. However, they do not completely line up 110%. We did see movement in the UK on November 12th. However, we saw the majority of the movement on November the 13th. We then still saw movement on November the 14th. However, like I said, the majority of that movement was on the 13th. So it can be a bit tricky if you're dealing with clients in different languages, in different areas, in different niches, etc., in different countries, and if they have websites in different languages in different countries, or potentially the same website that's covering those different territories. It can be quite confusing when the updates are kind of so spaced apart. However, the majority of the actual movement was across those 3 days. So it doesn't seem as if there was any other updates or anything around that time as well. Okay, so one of the things that you guys have been requesting that I add to this, to these update videos is these SERP volatility checkers, the ones that Moz, SEMrush, RankRanger, SERPWoo, Algoroo, all these sites have. I'm not going to be adding in all of them. I think that's a bit of overkill. However, I'm going to be adding in the ones that I think give us a bit more insight into the SEO and SERP landscape of these updates. So number one, I want to start with the SEMrush sensor because I do feel like the SEMrush sensor is slightly off edge in comparison to all of the other kind of ones. Generally just speaking, I would put the SEMrush sensor more on a kind of earthquake Richter scale graph than I would the others, which is a much more accurate kind of scale, just because of how far off these points can be. As an example, I believe November the 4th there shows that it's about 6.4, whereas November the 12th shows that it's 7.5. I would say that the 7.5 to the 6.4 is a completely different kind of earthquake, right? It's a completely different kind of Richter scale. It allows you to have such more volatility in the SERPs just by a few points in SEMrush, and in comparison to the other people. Now, keep that November 12th date in mind because quite a lot of these tools have got a little bit of different data around them. Now, RankRanger is the one that I actually quite like a lot because they put this highlighted red block in of when the update is supposed to have happened. However, obviously, if you're looking at this scale, you can see that according to these days, nothing has really happened at all. So when you actually look at the risk factor again, it's November the 12th, according to RankRanger, when things were really kicking off. Though also, according to RankRanger, and somewhat SEMrush as well. October 26th also saw a ton of movement. However, my own data doesn't exactly reflect it to be nearly as big as this specific update, because the November update does seem to actually have had a significant amount of impact on quite a few people. The SERPRU, SERP Volatility Checker, is also another really interesting one because you can actually compare the countries. So it makes it a lot more interesting if you're doing international SEO, or if you have SEO in multiple nations, so you're doing SEO for both the USA and potentially Mexico or something, as an example. This allows you to compare those different countries and the volatility they had over different days, which allows you to see if an update did actually roll out at the same time in America as it did in Mexico, or if it is delayed. And that is quite insightful when you're actually trying to inform a customer about when an update has happened or when it is going to occur. The other thing that the SERPRU does amazingly is this mobile volatility checker, which shows that on the 10th of this month there was a ton of volatility, and according to SERPRU as well, the 10th did seem to actually have the most volatility out of any days, though specifically mobile was the most hit. Now, finally, we have the Algorand SERP volatility one, probably the most famous, the most used one. This one is also showing that November the 13th actually had the most amount of movement. However, it's also saying that November 4th had quite a lot of movement, and I'm not 100% sure I agree with that, just because November the 4th in our data didn't really show much movement at all. And the scale, like I said, if you do that kind of Richter scale thing on here, it was only a 2.04 on November the 4th compared to a 2.09 on November the 13th. That would incline that there's actually quite a level amount of movement, where I would say that there was a hell of a lot more movement on November the 13th than there was on November the 4th. Okay, so on to the actual juicy stuff now. What's actually been affected? So the first few things that have been affected, and it's almost obvious when you think of it, it's a spam update, right? Links, generated content, fresh domains. Those are the three major things from my own analysis that have been hit this update, and that have been significantly affected anyway by this update. Affected does not mean that it is necessarily bad, as you will see in the next slide, but let's just jump into it. The first thing is links. And I have to explain this every time there's a link algo update video. If your page has no links and it is still a link update, your page can still be hit. It has no links. It has nothing for the algorithm to give you any gain. It has nothing for the algorithm to give you any boost, whereas competitors might have that. So sites that don't have any links can still and do still get affected by link-based algorithm updates, especially if they're on to the next stage, if they're on new domains, or if the site age is too low. If you're dealing with a very high competitive niche, and this is the specific thing that I want to get into, the more competitive the niche, the more the domain was affected. So if you are dealing with a domain that is 1 or 2 months old, generally speaking, you will have been affected in this update, because it has gone after sites that are trying to have that kind of brand new freshness effect. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that every site is going to be affected. You know, local SEO generally is a completely different ball game in terms of algorithm updates. And if you've set everything up right, if you've done your trust signals, if you've done all of that good stuff, then this is generally a spam update. It shouldn't actually affect you. However, just being on a new domain, just having low site age, just having low page age, all of these things have contributed, in my opinion, in this update to sites being negatively affected. I haven't seen any kind of new sites, any kind of new domains be positively affected, which is where I'm getting this conclusion from, in the sense that only the new sites, only the new tests, only the new domains, even if they're not mine, the other people that I've consulted in the industry, they have also been affected. So it just seems to be the fact that Google is treating domain age and site age as a real factor in this update, which again, it's a spam update. It's not exactly surprising. And the final thing is generated content websites. This has been a long time coming, right? We've all seen these sites that have been gaining millions of visitors, or even less than that. Just crazy numbers, right? Just because they can pump out this kind of AI in quotation marks. It's not real AI. It's not true AI. Not even close. Generally GPT-3 scripts, or like Watson, IBM scripts and stuff, creating this kind of content. However, like I said, Google has tried to hit these websites, but it hasn't exactly been all that successful. Customized generation is still working a treat. However, the sites that have literally just spam blasted sites with content that has all been completely AI generated, and there's been absolutely no customization of either the script or the surrounding text or the input of data that you're trying to get back out of it. Any of that kind of customization has not been done. Generally, those sites have been hit, and it's not really surprising. We were generally waiting for some kind of content update to be able to target those sites. However, on the other end, those that have been doing that customization work, those that have been doing the custom headers, those that have been putting in their own data sources, those that have been customizing the scripts using different fucking APIs. There's all of this stuff that has been built on top of just the lazy people who have just been trying to spam blast content out there. Those people have been winning, right? I've seen so many sites from people that I know that have been using Jarvis, but they have customized the content around it. They've done all the headers first. They've done the intro. They've added imagery. They've added content. They've done schema. They've made it a legitimate page rather than just being a single piece of generated content and throwing it up there. Those sites have done amazingly. However, the sites that have just spam blasted that content have seen a hit. And most of the test pages where we've just done, Jarvis style content and we've just thrown it up there, most of those pages have been hit as well. So thank you for watching this video. I know it wasn't extremely long, but I hope it gives you an insight enough into what this update has affected. Though this video will probably obsolete in a month's time because there'll be another update dropping very soon, in my opinion anyway. Google have been loving dropping updates with us this year. Why won't they give us one more Christmas present? Thank you for watching. I've been Charles Float. You can follow me on Twitter at Charles_SEO, Facebook.com/TheCharlesFloat, and you can check out all of my free and premium training at charlesfloat.gumroad.com. Peace.